Boruto and his friends battle against a giant one-eyed snake. Now that I'm saying that out loud, that sounds kind of fucked up. Why'd it have to be snakes? Hello my friends, and welcome to another review of the Boruto anime series. And things are going to be changing up pretty soon for the Boruto anime. We now have a brand new time slot. We are reviewing these episodes on the weekends now, which honestly, I kind of appreciate. I have more time to review anime on the weekends, and I barely have any time at all to do it on the weekdays, so I actually like the time change here. It's pretty cool, and it's a great way to wake up on Sunday morning watching one of my favorite anime franchises. Not only that, but this episode has a brand new intro, which is awesome! It might just be the best intro from the Boruto anime series thus far, if only for the fact that the song is pretty catchy, and the imagery is freaking incredible. Not only do we get to see a lot of your favorite characters in action, but it sort of carries a lot of that vibe and energy that we got from some of the openings from the original Naruto series and from Shippuden, where we get teasing for some of the villains and some of the action that we're going to see, and maybe even some crazy metaphorical imagery. One of the most striking things about the intro is there's this whole thing where Boruto is trapped within this ice because of this giant ice monster creature. Now this is either something that's going to play into the plot, or this is some sort of really weird, extreme metaphor of some kind. All I know is getting to see all of these characters team up and fight against this thing is all sorts of awesome. I truly appreciate it. But let's go ahead and jump into this episode right here, which is a continuation of the Ryuchi Cave arc, where Boruto and his friends are going to be going through the cave to find this giant snake who goes by the name of Garaga, who has one eye and has the reverse scale underneath his neck. And they're going to need this reverse scale if they're actually going to want to go back to the White Snake Sage and find out more about where Mitsuki is. So, reluctantly, they're going to have to battle against some snakes. In my last review, I wasn't too excited about the fact that Boruto and his friends were just going to be going to fight a snake. We've seen stuff like this multiple times in the Naruto series, and I didn't think it was going to be unique at all. But what I especially love about this episode is not only are they battling against this incredibly disturbing and creepy looking snake, but they're actually going to be getting help from another, one that we haven't seen in quite some time, and it just so happens to be Auda, who is the summon of Sasuke, who is a snake who happens to live in Ryuchi Cave. And what I especially love about his character is he's unlike any other snake that we've actually seen from the franchise. He's incredibly polite and extremely loyal to Sasuke. Thus, he is going to be extremely loyal to Sarada, and he actually decides to help out these characters to take down this giant snake and get that reverse scale. Even Auda realizes that Garaga is kind of a dick, and everybody doesn't like him, and that's because not only is he incredibly violent, but he seems to have the ability to spit this acid on people, which will transform them into a living statue. Basically, he's Deborah mixed with Medusa. By the end of the episode, it looks like they're actually going to be getting the upper hand on Garaga, especially with Chocho transforming into a giant, grabbing onto him, Shikadai being able to stop him and freeze him in place with his shadow paralysis. Even Inojin tries to utilize his art style abilities to blind his other eye with paint, allowing Boruto and Sarada to try and get close and take this scale. But it's not going to be that easy, as Chocho is actually transformed into a giant statue thanks to Garaga's poison. What I do think is kind of interesting is that when she is frozen in this state, she's able to maintain her giant size. I'd imagine that if this actually happened, she would lose control and not be able to control her chakra, and her body would start to contract, and that would actually cause the entire statue to just collapse. Maybe I'm thinking about this stuff too much, but yeah, that's pretty freaking freaky, and it's very evident that this is not the end of Chocho, of course. I mean, if he can do that, there's probably a way they're going to be able to reverse the ability to get someone who is transformed into stone. So the episode ends with a promise of fighting against more snakes. So what's the rundown on this episode of Boruto Naruto Next Generations? While I did enjoy this episode, I don't know if it needed to be spread into two separate episodes. I mean, it's really simple. It's just fighting a giant snake and trying to steal his scale away, but they managed to actually drag this out just a little bit to the point where it can actually get kind of boring. The reason it wasn't boring for me, however, is that it was actually supplemented with some pretty interesting B-story material where we go back to Konoha Village. They're still trying to wait for this one Chunin to wake up so they can get more information about what was going on with Mitsuki and when he left the village. And they reintroduced that other happy-go-lucky ninja character who goes by the name of Yurito, who has a really interesting personality personality, and they put a lot of emphasis on him in this episode. And this was no coincidence. They're clearly building up this character to be some sort of evil villain who doesn't look like he wants this information to get out. He's either working with the group that Mitsuki is with, or he's with an entire other organization altogether. I'm intrigued to see where this is actually going to be headed overall, but one of the biggest surprises about this episode was just getting to see the return of Auda, who is just a really awesome character, because he barely had any character at all in the original series. In fact, I think the only time we actually saw him was during the climax of the 4th Shinobi War, and that was at the very end when Sasuke summoned them when they were fighting against the Ten Tails. It was really awesome seeing him there. He pretty much only had one line of dialogue. Here he has a lot more to work with, and he comes across as a very proud and proper snake, which I think is really funny about his character, as most of the time the snakes in the series just come across as very angry monsters. Case in point, Garaga. He kind of reminds me of Manda in many ways. Speaking of which, now that we're in the Ryuchi Cave, I wonder if we're actually going to get to see the return of Manda 2. Does anybody remember that character? The weird sort of super cloned version that Kabuto created? Maybe he still lives in Ryuchi Cave? Maybe he's hanging out somewhere else, but I think it would be really cool to see that giant thing return, as I believe he was the biggest snake that we've actually seen in the entire series, being able to completely wrap up around that giant turtle. But it would be cool to see him. In any case, it's great to see Auda. I think that is pretty freaking awesome, and seeing him work together with Sarada and Boruto and all his friends was just really freaking great. Nothing too crazy or inventive here. I will say the best thing about this episode, in my opinion, was probably watching the new intro. I watched it a couple of times. I'm going to watch it a couple more just to sort of absorb it and see what it's trying to do, but it's really exciting, and you definitely need to check it out. So Boruto's here. Remember, it's now going to be airing on Sundays at this point, which, again, like I said, I'm kind of okay with. But it works. But let's get to the brass tacks. How was this episode of Boruto? It was okay. I think it's being a little dragged out over the fact that they're going to be spreading this into 2 episodes. Otherwise, I still got a lot of enjoyment out of this episode. The design of Garaga is pretty freaking awesome. Auda coming in was a big surprise. And this whole B subplot story with Yurito actually kind of has me invested, so I can't wait to see where that's going to be headed. So I'm giving this episode a 4 out of 5. You guys should definitely check it out if you are following the Boruto anime series, and if you did watch this episode, I'd love to hear what you guys thought about it in the comments section below. Did you like this episode? Did you not like this episode? What did you think about the return of Auda, and what do you hope to see from the rest of this brand new Mitsuki arc? Thank you guys for watching this review. I'll see you all next time, and as always, stay down now, baby.